PQ02.
Nice to meet you. We'll call on you when your item is up on the agenda, but thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You can start, Claire.
Wonderful, thank you. Apologies again, everyone, but great to see you tonight. I want to welcome everyone to the April 28th, 2022 meeting of the CB6 Business Affairs and Licensing Committee. My name is Claire Brennan and I'm the chair of this committee. The meeting is called to order at 6:34 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by Community Associate Alex Crawford. Thank you, Alex. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or concerns or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Kevin has volunteered to take minutes tonight. Thank you, Kevin. I hope you're feeling okay. But that's why the YouTube stream is great as well. You all should have received an email from the board office with a link to a doodle sign up sheet for minutes takers. For your convenience, Alex just put the link to sign up in the chat right now if you haven't done that yet. I'll take attendance by roll call and Alexandra will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Claire Brennan.
I'm here.
Charles Fernandez. Charles. Paige Judge.
Here.
Anton Malner.
Present.
Seema Shah. Susan Steinberg.
Present.
Michael Devereaux.
Present.
Dan Devine.
Present.
Jeannie D'Onofrio.
Present.
John Keller.
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
And I'm going to go back. Charles Fernandez. And Seema Shah.
Seema's excused.
Okay. We have quorum.
Thank you, Alexandra. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears before you on the screen. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom now. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the March 24th committee meeting were distributed ahead of time. If there's no objection to the minutes, we'll adopt them as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. I don't see any objections, so the minutes from the March 24th committee meeting are adopted and will soon be available on the CB6 website. Thank you, Alexandra. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. We know these well, but I'll just go over them again. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. Chat function should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties that you might be having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated out loud on the record during the meeting. When a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. We are required by law to have a transcript of the meeting, so please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. And without further ado, we will start with the agenda, committee business. The first applicant on the agenda tonight is a new on-premises license for PT02 Inc. at 200 East 21st Street. Is there a representative from?
Oscar Nang is here representing PTO2.
Hi, Oscar. Thank you for being here. If you don't mind just walking us through your application, that would be helpful. Excuse me.
Sure. This will be a full restaurant with chef. The client has 2 other restaurants in New York City. Where do you want me to start as far as applications concerned?
Yeah, just like tell us a little bit about the space, and you submitted an application to, you could just walk us through kind of talking about whatever you want to share.
Okay. This will be a Korean barbecue restaurant with no live music, no outdoor seating. They're requesting, they're trying to get a full liquor license for a full bar. And the primary sale is food-based, not liquor sales. That's the primary focus is food. The space is, so I'm just trying to pull up the plan. The space is approximately 2,500 square feet. There will be a full kitchen there, along with 2 restrooms and dining area and a small bar. But again, their focus is food, not the bar area. This will be a gut renovation, and everything will be built accordingly. There will be no windows that open, so noise will be mitigated.
Great. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for walking us through your application. I see Anton has his hand raised, so I'll call on Anton.
Just a couple of questions. The restaurant is going to be on the avenue. Is it going to be the old Adriana Pizzeria spot?
I don't know what was there before, because lines have all been ripped down already when we got there.
But it is on the avenue.
On the avenue, correct.
Okay. Second thing, I noticed in your application, you said no manager will always be present. When will a manager be present at this location?
The owner is the operator, so he will manage along with his wife. They don't exactly have titles except for the chef and husband. The wife will be, I guess, running the place as they have been doing on 33rd Street.
So in effect, there will always be a manager in the restaurant.
Owner will always be there.
That's fine. I have no other questions.
Thanks, Anton. Does anyone else from the committee have questions? John?
Yeah, just quickly, what are the hours of operation? If you mentioned them, I apologize.
Sure. They will serve lunch and dinner, and they will be closed around 12 to 1 o'clock, depending on the days. And they will adjust accordingly as they see fit, but it will be it will not be open later than 1 a.m.
Thank you.
Paige? Sorry, Paige, just unmute yourself and then. I think you turned your camera off, but there you go.
Okay. Will the restaurant be handicapped accessible, both entrance and bathrooms?
Yes, ma'am. All ADA.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Jeannie?
Good, thanks. Hi, quick question. It's answered yes. Have any of the principals owned or managed other establishments? Are they currently operating other restaurants now, or was that in the past?
They are currently operating a restaurant on 10 East 33rd Street called PT01. DBA is HYUN. They have been in business for over 5 years, and they managed to survive the pandemic.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions from members of the public. I do want to clarify your requested hours of operation, but I think we can do that. If anyone wanted to make a motion and we could start a resolution here. John,
Motion of no objection.
thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Anton. So Alexandra will pull up the resolution when she gets a chance. And we'll just go through this quickly, but so it's a resolution of no objection. And sorry, I actually, Oscar, what's your relationship to?
Oh, I am the liquor license consultant.
Okay. Thank you. And so you said it was a Korean barbecue restaurant?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
It leans towards the higher end,
Mhm.
the Korean barbecue scene.
Mhm. And so in terms of your hours of operation, were there some nights that you wanted to be closed by midnight, or was it pretty regularly until 1 a.m.?
Well, the hopes is business is good enough to sustain those hours. If they will not go past those hours, if anything, they will reduce their hours depending on the weekdays, or if they feel it's a little bit slower, on a Monday night, they might close by 11. So the hours of operations will not exceed the 1 a.m. Cutoff.
Okay, so usually when a new applicant comes in, we ask them to have their closing hours by midnight.
Sure,
But
you can follow your rules.
we also are completely understanding that it's the pandemic and that, businesses need kind of to stay open as much as they can. So if there are no objections from the committee, I'm okay with just kind of the blanket 1 a.m. and hearing Oscar say that it probably won't be 1 a.m. most nights. Feels comfortable to me, but I would welcome any other opinions or concerns from the committee. Jeannie?
I agree. I'm totally comfortable with that.
Okay, and John?
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable with that.
Okay, so yeah, we can just say 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. And that was 7 days a week, Oscar?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. That's great. And so there was no committee stipulations or public comment, and no members of the community had anything to say affirmatively or against. So we have no objection here. And as we have been doing it, I'll let folks raise their hand if they or have a non-affirmative vote to this resolution. So I'll just wait a second. Committee members can raise your hand if you do not vote in favor of this application. Seeing no hands, thank you, Oscar, for being here and for walking us through your application, and we as a committee wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Good night, committee, and thank you for your time.
Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck. And the board office will be in touch.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, next up, sorry, I lost my script, is a new on-premises license for 244 Restaurant LLC, which is doing business as Il Tinello at 244 East 46th Street. Do we have a representative from that establishment here?
Yes, Ben Salage.
Hi, Ben. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
What is your relationship to the establishment?
I'm one of the owners.
Wonderful. Do you mind just walking us through your application?
Sure. We're going to be taking over 244 East 46th Street, the old Grifone. We're going to be open up from approximately 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Generally, we're a high-end Italian restaurant. Our kitchen usually closes on 10 p.m. during weeknights, 11 p.m. On Fridays and Saturdays. Usually, the lights are out by 11:30, unless someone hangs out and they're talking and they don't leave until midnight. But usually, our current restaurant usually is closed by 10:30, 11 the latest. I am also opening up another restaurant. I was in front of you guys a few months ago at 337 East 49th Street. So thank you for that approval. And basically, it's a small seats, about 60 to 7 people. It's got a small bar, no windows open. So we'll only be playing music over the radio, recorded music. And full-time chef, we have a full-time manager that will be there whenever the restaurant is open. And currently we also have a sister location at 16 West 56th Street. We've been there for approximately 11 years and actually have had no issues with the board there over there.
That's great. Thank you. And I think I saw in your application, there's no outdoor dining.
No, there's no outdoor dining and there's no windows or anything that open.
That's great. Do any committee members have any questions for Ben? I do remember you being here
Thank you.
last time. Mhm. Anton?
Yeah, just a quick typo. In the application to CB6, you didn't indicate the seating capacity of the restaurant. It came up as West Harrison. I think perhaps you could correct that.
Oh, okay. That was actually my attorney put the application in because I was away when he did it. And he also made another mistake. He put cross streets at 8th and 7th Avenue, which is, so I'll have him change it because he's the one that actually did it.
That sounds good. Does anyone else have any questions for Ben? Or any motions?
Motion of no objection.
Thanks, Susan.
Second.
Is there a second? Jeannie, thank you. Alexandra, if you don't mind pulling up the resolution when you get a chance. Okay, so you said it was an Italian restaurant?
That's correct.
Mhm. And those hours are accurate as well, 11 a.m. to midnight?
Yes, but like I mentioned, we'll usually be closed before that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Just to kind of give it the latest
Yep.
that might have people in there still. So There weren't any committee stipulations or public comment. I guess I didn't really ask the public, but actually we're all here as panelists, so no community comments. So that's about it. If any committee members do not want to vote in affirmation of this resolution, I'll give you a few seconds to raise your hand now. But it seems pretty straightforward to me. And I'm not seeing any hands, so this resolution passes. Thank you, Ben, for being here.
Thank you very
again.
much.
And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, and I look forward to meeting you guys.
Yeah, we'll
Thank you.
stop
Good
by.
luck.
Have a nice night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Okay, so next up is a new on-premises license for ESQ Midtown East LLC, who is doing business as Emmy Squared Pizza at 1065 First Avenue. Do we have a representative from Emmy Squared here?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson Brennan. Thank you, committee members. My name is Maston Sansom. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I'm joined here by Andrew Castano, who is one of the owners of the premises, as well as Raul Adorno, who is the director of operations. As you mentioned, this is a full on-premises application. The hours, the proposed hours at least, are Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. There would just be recorded background music, so no live music, DJs or anything like that. There is an outdoor sidewalk cafe that they would like to use. The exact seats and things like that are really yet to be determined, but certainly flexible with that. Let me see here. And I know before you have some photos of the existing premises that they're essentially be replacing, which also has some outdoor space, as you can see here in the photo. So I'll kind of leave it at that. And if you have any questions, certainly happy to answer them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mattson, for coming and for walking us through your application. It's not really a question, but I will say, looking at this existing situation for the previous owner, it looks like this setup wouldn't work with the city's requirements. There's not 8 feet clearance along the sidewalk where a stroller or wheelchair could pass by. Like, it looks like the weight of that tent is in the tree bed there, which I don't think would be considered in compliance with the program. So I would just encourage you all to refer to the current requirements before establishing any sidewalk seating. And I will also say we have a ton of eyes on the neighborhood, and if you're not in compliance, we'll find out, and we'll definitely send someone to check up on your outdoor arrangement. So it's like better for us, for sure, better for you all to just be in compliance from the jump, and we don't need to have any back and forth on that. So I know that there's no relation to this establishment, but I just want to kind of make that very clear before.
Yes, absolutely. The applicant also has 5 other locations in the city. And yeah, without question, would be adhere strictly to the, to allow the 8 feet and allow people, I think it's 8 feet, but and to make sure that everything is in absolute full compliance, for sure.
Wonderful, thank you. I see a few hands up, so I'll pass it on to Susan first.
I just wanted to know the seating capacity.
The seating capacity is 136, a total, obviously.
If you, and you're not sure the outdoor space yet.
Yeah, I don't know if Raul has sort of a general who, again, he's the director of operations. He may have a general idea of what they're looking at. Again, it would, be really at the end of the day dictated by the law and the rules. Raul, do you have a sense of what you might be thinking?
I would say approximately, just from the looking at the setup, about 20 seats outside. And all of our establishments, we abide by DOT regulations, making sure there's 8 feet of clearance. And I would say that probably 20 seats is what would be the capacity outside. And just looking at the setup.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's probably the absolute max. I think that if you really go out there with a measuring ruler, it might not be, but you do have a corner unit, which is very nice. So you might be able to fit a few seats on what is a 2nd Avenue as well. But again, that's been a big issue for us, and it's really not worth personally my time or the board office's time to chase you and try to get you to allow strollers and wheelchairs to pass by. It's a basic human right that we don't want private businesses infringing upon. So again, I'm familiar with your other establishments and haven't really noticed any issues there. So I am confident that you will continue with this new space. Anton?
I may have missed it. What kind of restaurant is this? Is it going to be full Italian restaurant?
So Raul, I'll let you. I mean,
Sure.
Tremendous
Yep.
pizza and various other things. So I don't want to mischaracterize.
Yeah, it's a Detroit style pizza. It originated in Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. It's small pizza squares, and we have an assortment of salads, including burgers and sandwiches. So a really good combination of different items on the menu that are very appealing, and all of our other locations have done very well.
I was wondering, because Brooklyn Pizza is half a block away, and across the street there's another pizza place.
Our pizza is very unique. We use very fresh ingredients, so I think it brings a good variety to the neighborhood.
Okay, no other questions.
All right, and just to follow up to Anton, you don't do slices, it's all sit down, right?
Exactly, it's all sit down.
Mm-hmm. Paige?
Okay, are we discussing the restaurant or are we discussing an outdoor cafe? I'm getting a little bit confused with you discussing strollers and wheelchairs. I thought you needed a separate application in order to have an outdoor cafe.
No, Paige, so that
When did they change?
feature of the city changed pretty early on during COVID, where they blanketly kind of allow people to, or establishments to set up on the sidewalk without coming to us anymore. So this isn't an application for sidewalk seating, but it is an aspect of their application. So we're just trying to encourage them to adhere to the standards that were created by the city during COVID.
I'm very sorry. I thought that
No.
2 months ago, I understood that they lifted some of the when they opened up, they thought they went back to going to charge for the outdoor cafe, so that you need a separate license.
No, that hasn't happened yet. We're still in kind of the free for all, for lack of a better term, you know, just letting establishments set up on the sidewalk and hoping that they do adhere to
Okay, fine. I just,
requirements. Yeah.
the other thing,
So-
I'd like to know where his other establishments other than Brooklyn are. Are there any in our district?
So we have a location on the Upper East Side, which is on 81st and 3rd. We have a location in the East Village, which is on 5th Street and 1st Avenue. And I have a location in the West Village, which is 35 Downing Street.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Paige. John?
Yeah, and you're right across the street from what used to be Casa Romero, which is now the Lebanese restaurant, right? I think this location.
Yes.
Yeah, and we know that neighborhood well. My kids will be home from college in a few weeks, so they'll be sampling your pizza. You're seriously not going to have any takeout. You're not going to do delivery or.
Yes, part of our, we will do delivery and takeout, so that'll be available as well.
Okay, so it was when Claire asked about by the slice, I thought that's what she was asking.
I was kind of talking more about, you know, you can't like pull up, you can't go into the restaurant and say, can I get a slice
Got
and
it.
leave? It's not,
Okay.
it's more of a sit down restaurant.
But you could take out, my
But you
kids
could
could
take it
walk
out.
in there and get a pizza and take it out, I guess, or
Yes.
slices of pizza.
Right.
Yeah.
But it would have to be like a full pizza.
Okay, no, it's just a good idea because you've got a lot, as Anton suggested, I think, you've got a lot of pizza competition in that neighborhood. So I wish you all the success. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions? No attendees. I don't see any other questions. So if anyone has a motion, I would
Motion of no
certainly-
objection.
Thanks, Anton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, John. Alexandra, do you mind pulling up the resolution? Great. So no objection. We can say it's a sit-down pizza place. And those hours are accurate. That's what I heard you say, but just want to make sure. 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday. And then on Friday and Saturday, it's 11 a.m. to 12 a.m.
Yes, correct.
Okay. That's wonderful. There were no committee stipulations or public comment. That's great. Thank you. And so as the last two agenda items, I'll let folks raise their hands if they have a vote that's not affirmative to this resolution. And I'll give you a few seconds to do that. But seeing no hands, I would say this resolution passes, and we appreciate you both being here and answering our questions, and wish you the best of luck. It's
Claire,
exciting.
if I may, when do you guys
Oh,
plan
yeah.
to open? If I may, when do you plan to open your business at this location?
Do you have a date that you're going to open by?
Andrew,
We don't have a specific date yet, but probably 4 to 5 months. A lot of it's going to be
Oh,
dependent
okay.
on the liquor license.
Okay, yeah, no, that was more of a personal question for my Good luck, lots of luck to you. Thank you.
Selfish.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a selfish question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you
Yeah,
very much. Have a
yes.
wonderful evening.
We look forward to visiting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Short and sweet tonight. That is all the applicants we had. So moving on, as Anton has been leading this discussion, we're going to continue it and hopefully wrap it up tonight and maybe vote on the resolution that Anton has worked on in collaboration with the other two committees and ours. But I think without further ado, I'll pass it off to Anton to continue the discussion.
Thank you, Claire. As you know, we've been discussing the open restaurants program for several meetings, this committee and a couple of other committees. We've heard from members of those committees, we've heard from general public, but we haven't really heard from any of the restaurateurs who may or may not be affected by the new rules. And we've invited Gabriel Stulman, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, from the Happy Cooking Hospitality Group to give his views on the resolution and what he thinks of the open restaurants program and what he would like to see, I guess, as a restaurateur going forward in the regulations. Gabriel, the floor is yours.
Hello, members of CV6. Thank you for soliciting me to be at this meeting. I believe it was Kyle that first reached out to me. I believe Kyle has become aware of me either by his presence at my restaurants that I have in downtown Manhattan, or through my presence in the ongoing dialogue over the last year, whether it be with Department of Transportation, New York City Planning, City Council, and the Mayor's Office, and I have been a participant in conversations. For those of you that I don't know or don't know me, I no longer operate any businesses in your district. So I do recognize if you want to take any of my opinions with a grain of salt or completely dismiss them, you have every right and permission to do so. I did previously run a restaurant in CB6. The restaurant that I ran was a victim of the pandemic. I used to own a restaurant on the corner of 23rd and Lexington in the Freehand Hotel. My restaurant was called Simon and the Whale. It existed for approximately 3 years leading up to the pandemic. And now it is another business. I believe the name of it is Komodo, but that's not me anymore. I do currently own and operate 4 restaurants, all in CB2. I have 3 restaurants in the West Village and 1 in NoHo. I used to have 5 restaurants in the West Village. The pandemic has taken more than half of my company. Prior to March 2020, I had 9 restaurants. Today, I have 4 remaining. The eldest of them is 13 years. I am an operator who now, for the first time, with the exception of the restaurant that I used to have on Lexington and 23rd, we, prior to the pandemic, had a small portion of our sidewalk was licensed. It was licensed only on 23rd Street. We were not licensed on Lexington Avenue at the time when the whole process involved, I think, Paige, as you were mentioning. Back at that time, it involved a very onerous process of going through Department of Consumer Affairs. My restaurants in the West Village are all 13 years, 12 years, and 11 years old. All of them are in areas that have been previously prohibited from having sidewalk cafes due to the zoning resolution, which is all part of what is being debated now. Do we change the language in the zoning resolution to remove the ordinance that governs sidewalk cafes? I am a huge advocate of this. My restaurants now have sidewalk cafes that they did not have for their first 10 plus years in operation. When I think we zoom out and look at why some of those rules were written, I think they're outdated, and I think they spoke to a different time of New York. I think some of them seem very arbitrary in the sense that some of my neighbors in the West Village would have sidewalk cafes because they were grandfathered in, or a property that was directly adjacent to me had a sidewalk cafe, but mine was not permitted because the sidewalk narrowed by 3 inches in front of my property. Rules like this that used to exist where it said the sidewalk needed to be exactly 12 feet or wider. Otherwise, I have a business that is in an area where the sidewalk is 11 feet 9 inches. And I was previously prohibited from having a sidewalk cafe. I personally, as a diner, a father of 2 children in K through 5, and as a business owner, I very much enjoy dining outside. I find it has enriched our neighborhoods. I think it has made our city alive and more lively. I commend all of you, by the way, as somebody who has attended CB2 meetings for 17 years. Pardon my French. Holy shit, is this a breath of fresh air to be around some reasonable, level-headed people? You all have just conducted a meeting in a way that leaves my jaw aghast of actual just decorum, politeness, kindness. The fact that no objection is part of your vocabulary. The only part of CB2's vocabulary is deny unless. It starts from a place of great adversarial relationships where I feel so often in CB2, I don't have partners in my community board. I feel like I have opposition in my community board. My God, I wish there was more properties in CB6 or more of you were on CB2's board. Neither here nor there. As I looked at your resolution, number one, I just say, I think it's fantastic that you support your businesses in doing it. The only thing specifically to your resolution that I would make a suggestion to revisit is, and I speak on this from the place of an operator, is the part where you suggest or encourage that the Department of Health should include all licensed outdoor areas in assessing a restaurant's rating grade. I don't think that that's fair on an operator because the reality, it is outdoors and it is on the sidewalk, and it is subject to anybody's litter could impact it, right? You know, I think that there are ways to address what you are getting at, which I absolutely am in full agreement, and I support massive enforcement. I support strict guidelines. I would love the Department of Transportation and City Planning to follow the leads of people who have found ways to keep their sidewalk cafes clean and clear and free of rodents and vermin. I can tell you in the beginning, we certainly had problems of rats. We do not anymore. I know how to eradicate them from our properties. Certain examples, we have flower pots. They all now have steel screens within them and then mulch overlaying the screens so that rodents cannot burrow in the pots. This should be a requirement if you're going to have pots outside. We have a patio deck for our roadway seating. We took it apart and then put steel mesh screens along the perimeter so that nothing can burrow underneath the deck and fester and create families. These are very simple, basic guidelines. Pre-pandemic, all restaurants are required within the Department of Health regulations to have a licensed pest control company. The requirements within the restaurant are, I believe, visits bi-weekly. On our own, because we have outdoor dining, we have increased our visits to weekly. So I support all that. I support paying to use the sidewalk and to use the roadbed. I think that should be income for our city. I also think we should have some strong regulations as far as roadway seating. I'm going to say something that is against my own self-interest. I think they should go away for the winter. I don't think we should have roadway seatings in the winter. I think the sun sets early, it gets dark earlier, there's more cars out at night or nighttime beginning. There is the need for snow removal. I think that really the reason we began to set them up in winter was when indoor dining was prohibited. Now that indoor dining has resumed and it is safe to dine within indoors, make them seasonal. Make them 6-7 months a year. Make them revenue generating for the city, right? I am totally okay with saying there's no live music outside. I'm okay with saying, like, the current rules prohibit speakers. I'm fine with that. I actually think these are reasonable. Like, people live here, tenants. I believe the current written regulations around the open restaurants program currently under the executive order allow closing hours of, I need to double check, but I believe it is midnight and 1 a.m. I think that should be earlier. I mean, even though that's against my own self-interest in business, I think that is in the nature of being respectable to people living upstairs. I love that about New York City, right? So maybe closing hours could be, 10 p.m. on Sunday and Monday, and maybe even Tuesday, and 11 p.m. the rest of the week. It's okay to sit there and say, hey, you can be open till 1, 2, 3 inside, but outside, people live upstairs. We're going to shut it down at 11. I think that's fair, even on Friday and Saturday. So I think that the only thing that I think is really impossible, as somebody who has owned restaurants for 17 years and has a lot of experience with the Department of Health and the grading system, to make the outdoor area like somebody's cigarette butts that they flick, or somebody who allows their dog to piss on my patio when I'm not there, or somebody who decides to just drop the paper plate from the pizza that they had across the street. You can't make me responsible for people's crumbs on the sidewalk. You should hold me accountable for cleaning and maintaining the area. And if I fail to as an operator, then you should revoke my opportunity and privilege of using a sidewalk cafe if I can't keep it clean. But I don't think it should be part of the letter grade system. That's really my only encouragement or suggestion of something that is within your resolution that I would consider changing. Going through them a little bit bullet points at a time. Designing structures, enclosed outdoor structures should be discouraged, as these subvert the meaning of outdoor dining. I tip my hat to you, CB6, touche, I agree. They were enclosed when indoor dining was not allowed. Yeah, I mean, shit, sorry. I took it a step further and said, get rid of them for the winter. Outdoor restaurant space, sidewalk and or roadbed space for outdoor dining should be directly in front of a restaurant's indoor space unless revocable consent by neighboring property is given. That sounds beyond fair and reasonable, and agreed. Enforcement safety, DOT should hire sufficient and training staff to monitor adherence regulations and be available. Amen. And I would add, consistent. I mean, the fact that I have 10 inspections that look at one condition and approve it, and then on the 11th, somebody looks at a condition that 10 inspectors had no problem with and say, change this. That's an inconsistency in the department. But I recognize that, this is a growth process. All open restaurant permits should be posted online with boundaries and any stipulations, whether by DOT or community board given. This database should include canceled or non-renewed license. Sounds really easy and reasonable. And I agree with that. Aside from the fees to compensate the city for the use of public space and to obtain a permit, a deposit should be taken so that the DOT can remove or clear abandoned or unsafe structures. No objection from me. I give my landlord a security deposit. Why not give the DOT a security deposit to remove my shed? I got no problem with that. Sanitation, I mean, these are reasonable things, CV6. And then we get into sanitation and health. I already gave you my opinion on the first one. The second one, restaurants should have a plan on file to describe, among other things, vermin control, garbage pickup areas, preservation, drains, and stormwater runoff swells. Yes, they should. They should. We do. And other current clear path regulations should be kept in place. This is where we get a little bit gray area, right? So current clear path regulations are kind of black and white. It says that 8 feet must be maintained. I do believe that there needs to be exemptions that are case by case and determined by the Department of Transportation. As I mentioned, I have 3 restaurants in the West Village. As I was looking at the 2 or 3 applicants that you guys had present today, oh my God. I mean, like none of our sidewalks are as wide as you are in CV6. I deal with some sidewalks that are 6 feet wide, the entire sidewalk. I don't think that should prohibit somebody from using it. I think we need to sit there and say, okay, then here are exemptions. If you can't maintain 8 feet clear, then you're only allowed to occupy, you could have one table, like a 20-inch wide table that butts up against the building, and you've got 2 chairs, and I'm keeping 4 feet clear. I think there needs to be some ability for the Department of Transportation to operate in areas of gray rather than in black and white when we get into clear path. And also, like, what happens when you've got a tree pit? Does that mean you are not allowed to have a table because the city has a tree pit, or are you allowed some variance for 8 feet clear? Things like that. Also, same for fire hydrants, et cetera. I think there should always be a clear path. I think that clear path width should have the ability for some variance. And hours for outdoor dining, I mean, music, I think you're generous if you allow people to play music and live performances. I would say that would make you amongst the most generous community boards. Should be commensurate with stipulations from local community board. So there's my rambling. You invited me here. I hope I said anything of value or worth. And if anybody has questions, I'll shut up and listen.
Okay, I'll leave this open to forum discussion from any community board member who would like to make any comments.
Can we go to the grid where I can see everybody's faces for anybody that does want to talk? There we go. All right. Well then.
Dan Devine.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. It's always good to hear from operators. I think on this community board, you hit it right. We really try to balance everything about the community, including the operators. But my question for you, it's very on topic, but slightly off topic, is that often people come to us requesting outdoor dining. And I'm really curious, and they say, or even longer hours, right, of operation. And they say, look, I'm not going to be able to make money unless I get this. Can you give me a sense, just generally speaking, or maybe in a specific instance in one of your operating experiences, that what is it worth to you as an operator in terms of revenue to have outdoor seating?
I will say, I'm going to repeat your statement to be clear that I understood it, and then you can correct me if I have not understood you correctly, Daniel. One part is, what does outdoor dining mean to me? And the other part was about hours of operation and staying open later.
Yeah, and more specifically.
Do you want me to talk about both of them? Sure.
I really want to know economically, what does it mean to you?
I can speak to outdoor dining first, and then I'll give you my opinion on an operator who says without later hours, I can't function. I would say this, without outdoor dining, it is highly likely I'd have 0 restaurants. I think I would have lost my entire company without outdoor dining. I think outdoor dining is going to be imperative for the 4 out of 9 that I have left to continue to sustain. The reason why it is going to be imperative for the future sustainability of my restaurants are because just now, for the first time, I am meeting my 2019 revenue. All right, I'm getting back to the sales that I used to have pre-pandemic for the first time. I'm doing it on twice as many seats. So we'll take, for instance, Joseph Leonard, my restaurant that's 13 years old on the corner of Waverly and Grove. For the first 11 years of its existence, it was a 34-seat restaurant. That includes the bar, right? It is still 34 seats indoors, but now I have about 26 outside between the sidewalk and the roadbed. So it has taken nearly double the amount of seats for me to match my revenue. Why is that so? I think that's so because, number one, I think there are fewer diners today than there were pre-pandemic. I do not think the city has fully recovered. I think there are plenty of diners who dine out less frequently. I think there are people that are still concerned about dining out, right? That is absolutely a fact. And also, there has been an exodus from New York. Our population size has not yet recovered, and we don't have tourism yet. Like we're not flooding with people coming from Europe or South America or Asia. Like, so we don't have the same revenue. And you add on to this, just like everybody around our country in every avenue, all of my costs are up. My cost of goods is way up. Also, my cost of labor has risen dramatically in not just the ways that minimum wage is now the highest that it is in any state in our country at $15, but because the pandemic gave so many people in our industry the opportunity to pause and sit there and say, do I want to go back to being a dishwasher? Do I want to keep being a cook? What has happened, everybody that has returned has sought more money. And it becomes a bidding war now to have employment. When we have had these massive issues of every industry saying I can't get enough staff, I can't get enough staff. How do you get staff when there's not enough people? You pay more, you pay more, you pay more, right? So my labor cost is its highest that it's ever been. It's up 10%. My cost of goods are up at least 30%. How do my cost of insurance and my cost of utilities? I can balance this by increasing my revenue. The only opportunity I have for increased revenue is more seating capacity. So I would say economically, I'm out of business without outdoor dining, or I would be down to 1 restaurant. And I say that because if I go back down to 1 restaurant, then I would chop the labor so significant. I'd be the maitre d' again, right? So, sure, maybe I wouldn't have none, but I'd go down to 1. 2 people that say I need later hours, that I say BS. All right. If the only way your business is sustaining is because you can stay open till 2 instead of 1 or 1 instead of midnight, then you need to evaluate all the other hours that you're open. Like, if that's the only way you sustain is that extra hour, I'm questioning your whole business model.
We should
Thank you.
hand it over to John maybe for the next question.
Yeah, I want to.
Did that answer your question, Daniel?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
I want to follow.
And I know you, go ahead.
I want to follow up on a question Dan asked, what I think he asked, and then I want to make a comment. Dan, I think, was trying to figure out a way to put a value on a seat outside. If at some point, we want to charge to do this.
Yeah.
How would it just without, we're not going to come up with a metric here tonight, but
yep.
how in general would you go about doing that? You know, how much is that seat worth? And
Yeah.
Then I have a comment.
I have a non-answer for you.
Okay, fair enough. That was a non-question.
Yeah.
So,
That seat's value changes on the neighborhood.
okay,
No disrespect to CV6. My outdoor seats in CV2 are probably more valuable by square inch than your outdoor seats in CV6.
okay, so you're saying
The foot traffic, right? And so I think it's difficult to determine the value on a seat. Separately, there was a major problem with the way the outdoor dining worked before, having to go through Department of Consumer Affairs. You had to go to the subcommittee of liquor licensing at your community board. You had to go to the full board. You had to go to DCA. You had to go through all these things. You needed expensive architectural drawings. You needed to send license letters. I think whatever they determine the value, John, needs to be something that is thinking about mom and pop restaurants across all 5 boroughs, right?
Okay,
I think they need to look at it that way. And they need to sit there and say, well, if somebody applies for it in Queens or Staten Island or Brooklyn or Manhattan, like they need to put a dollar amount what the city wants for their space.
That's fine, and you're right. It's difficult to answer it, but it's important to answer it. The comment,
Yep.
and thank you, everything you said is eminently reasonable. The comment I want to make is the only problem I've ever had with outdoor dining, and I especially like it that you're going to close it down in the winter, the sheds in the street.
I mean, I'm okay with it.
Is the equity between a restaurant that can have a lot of outdoor space and a restaurant that can't, and I don't know how you resolve that. That's why I asked the question.
No, you don't. I don't think you try to resolve that, John.
Okay, people tonight, they're across the street from a restaurant with a massive outdoor shed. So how do you resolve the equity? I don't know.
But I mean, John, the person who has the massive outdoor shed.
Right.
No. Here's what I'm going to volley back to you. The person with the massive outdoor shed, do they also have a large square foot interior?
Okay.
And are they probably paying more rent for their space? Do they have a larger space?
I'm not, there's not a volley because we're not arguing. Let me just say, the only thing I want to say is I am familiar with at least one restaurant in this area that doesn't even use its indoor space. It just uses its outdoor space. And that gets to what I wanted to say is, I don't think we should have restaurants that don't have indoor space, just having outdoor space. And I don't know how we work that into a reso or something, because that to me is a real issue of, what are you doing? Here.
I mean, I'll give you an example of, there's a place in my neighborhood that does that, and I think it's fine. There's a coffee shop, right? In my neighborhood.
Bigger than a coffee shop. Yeah.
Well, no, but so that's where you've got you. That's actually, I think, John, we're agreeing where I was talking about some of the rules. I think it's really important that we have more gray area than black and white. And so a rule that says you have to use your indoor, I think, no, there needs to be some room for a discussion, right? If it's a coffee shop that has a counter where people walk up and then they put 4 tables outside, but they have no tables inside, do you have an issue with that?
No, none at all. Absolutely none at all.
So
if you have
exactly,
full
you got to
indoor
figure.
restaurant space.
Yeah, you got to figure out where's that in between, and I agree.
Okay, fine.
To the person. By the way, to the person who's running their business that way, I see somebody who is clearly doesn't care about revenue, right? If you have a massive indoor space and you're not using it, I just don't get it.
I'll reach out to you offline because this restaurant's never done anything to me, so I don't.
It blows my mind because that's what they're paying rent for.
I don't care to do any damage to them here.
Right.
Okay, I'll be.
Michael, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Gabriel, for coming in and putting your input and helping us with this resolution. This is more of like an open question to the board, and it's more of a statement and a question, I guess you could say. I have a friend who owns like a block of restaurants all the way uptown in Washington Heights. And at the beginning, it was a nightmare to get the outdoor space, with the DOT. and I feel for the DOT because it was just thrown at them, right? It's like, you're in charge of this outdoor dining. There you go, have fun, make regulations, make what they have to do. And, they were understaffed, and there was, people coming to her from the DOT saying, you can't do this. And the next person would say, yes, you can do it. And there was a lot of confusion, right? So my question is to the board, where has there been input from the DOT on this resolution, or in the general board meetings? I haven't seen anyone from the DOT. Is there more of like an input we could have from the DOT, or questions we could ask them about this? Because I would love to see more representation from that agency at the community board, because it does involve a lot of stuff that the general board meetings have, transportation, obviously our business affairs and licensing. And, has there ever been a presence of the DOT at a community board meeting, or could we have that?
Michael, I'm gonna say one thing that may be frustrating in the beginning, but I think should give some level of comfort to hopefully all community boards. Number one, I have a lot of empathy for the DOT as well. With the new administration, there's a new commissioner, Yasmin Rodriguez, I believe, who's on city council for, I don't know, however many years. So he's just taken over the DOT along with the Adams administration. Here's what I will say. The guidelines that the DOT gave in the very beginning of the open restaurants program, I think were very clear, and they had to do something that could be executed very quickly, and they had to trust operators to self-certify, which obviously you got bad operators who are self-certifying and lying about that shit. And that's not on the DOT not being clear. That's on operators being dishonest. Then you add on top of that, what I can tell you for fact, de Blasio's administration, for the better part of the pandemic, gave direction to multiple city agencies, DOT amongst them, to yes, inspect, but really, guys, back off. Let's not bust chops. Let's not break balls, pardon my language, and don't give people fines. It's a pandemic. People are going out of business and closing. And so there was this directive for the better part of 2 years of let them have it, slap them on the wrist, but don't really shut it down. That is now changing. Just now, over the last couple of months, I can tell you from personal experience of the way the DOT is inspecting my restaurants today versus 8 months ago. It is coming down hot and heavy and forceful and strict on me and on everyone. And they are whipping out tape measurers and pulling out binders like they never did in the 20 inspections that I had before. I believe what you are going to see is a much more aggressive enforcement by the DOT. And I also believe that is absolutely connected to the dialogue about making it permanent. In order to be able to be trusted to make it permanent, they need to demonstrate that they can enforce it. And they can enforce it. They were just told to back down.
Thank you.
That's great to
Thank
hear
you.
that, that it is,
Yeah.
it's come to a.
Right.
Oh,
Alex, Alex, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to answer Michael's question about DOT at CB6 meetings. The Department of Transportation, our contact there, comes to typically every transportation committee meeting to do a report. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you.
I'd expect to see a lot more enforcement from DOT over the next 6 months.
Excuse me for interrupting. Yeah, and it was a collaborative effort between our committee, transportation, and land use. But
and them getting
much.
their own directive from de Blasio, and where were they,
Right.
They're sitting there also then answering to a mayor who is saying, hey guys, take it easy. Take it easy. It's a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we really appreciate your perspective, but I think that we can kind of maybe adapt the resolution slightly, but I think that Anton has been working hard on it, and
all right.
I just
thanks for inviting me.
Thanks
for inviting me. If nobody has any other questions, I will leave you guys to your private session.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
It's public. You're welcome to stick around. Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm gonna go check in on my kids. All right, guys.
Thank you again.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think Gabriel had some very interesting points. Perhaps what I should do is tweak the current resolution a little bit and send it out and see if anybody has any comments or questions or objections to the tweaking of this before we submit it to the full board for a consideration. Do I have you guys support on this? Jenny?
Yeah, I just, hold on. Yeah, I just took it to heart what he said about but giving him the, I don't know how he phrased it, in the resolution about the health codes. His restaurant is there, someone tosses a pizza plate on the ground. So I don't know what we can do to reword that section, but I really took that to heart because I see that all the time. I see restaurants, you see trash at restaurants and dirt and, whatever, and it's not theirs. And they do their best to keep up with it, but it's not always theirs. So I could just think of Rosemary's on 23rd or 21st. Sometimes it's a mess out there, but it's not them and they're doing their best. So I don't know how we could rephrase that, but I'm really taking that to heart.
Well, I see in the Q&A, there was a question about Dunkin Donuts, I think it was on 38th Street or whatever it was, that they are always dirty. There's always dirt around there. The question is, I've been a business owner. I've had a store, and the regulations say you got to keep the front of your business neat and clean, the sidewalk clean. Well, we were located in front of a bus stop, and the amount of cigarette butts that we had to clean up was unbelievable. I mean, it's very difficult to enforce a situation that's out of your control. I think this is what he was trying to bring up.
Absolutely.
John?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with your suggestion. We could all get the most recent copy of the resolution and have an opportunity to, give our thoughts on it, with very specific language. I think that's the right next step. I found this very helpful, opened my eyes on a couple things. That's all. I think we should do what you suggested.
Thank you very much. I see another hand. Susan?
I was just wondering, in sending around the reworded resolution, would it be possible to do track changes so we could see what it is that's actually being changed?
Yeah, we'll mark this down right now. Done.
Thank you.
Okay, Claire, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Sorry. I'm here. So that was that Anton's going to take it and do a few edits, and then we're going to vote. Sorry, I stepped away for a second. Was that the plan, though? To kind of adapt the reso to what Gabriel had mentioned?
I don't know. Could we adopt the resolution subject to minor tweaks, or does it have to be adopted as is exactly written?
I think that usually, we kind of discuss a topic and someone offers to write the resolution, and then it's presented to everyone at full board and you vote on it. Then as well, you make a motion to resolve to support in the committee. This is a unique instance because we've been talking about it for a while and we've been able to share the resolution in advance. So I think that we have a few options. We can either just say Anton will add these points, like a motion to resolve. Sorry, I should have it up, but the resolution on open dining, and then Anton can make the edits and we can get them all in the packet that we get for the full board meeting. Or we can also, I'm pretty sure, all join as a committee, similarly to as some of you might remember, like when we did it, you know, like a what was it, like a caucus or something, when we kind of like all just like met up together. What's that called?
Caucus.
A caucus. It was a caucus. Yeah.
Caucus.
Okay. So we can meet like 15 minutes before the full board meets, right? Alexandra, are those the options that we have for this?
I believe so. Yeah. I think with the meeting before full board, I'd have to double check exactly what you would need to do, because if there would need to be minutes and stuff like that, I'd have to double check.
Right.
So.
But I will open it up to everyone, but I do think that like Anton should be able to make the small tweaks that we listened to today. And then the board office will be sending all of the resolutions, including the tweaked version of what we've all been working on for like a few months. And if it, for whatever reason, I doubt this will happen, but if Anton like misrepresented what we heard in this meeting, then when I present to the full board, one of you can bring it up and say, hey, this doesn't sound right, you know, which I don't expect to happen. But I think that the steps that would make sense in my mind, and I'm not going to be the one to offer these motions, but would be to motion to resolve.
Let me make sure I understand our timing. When do we have our next committee meeting?
So we do have, I guess this is our April meeting, so we have one in June, and then a full board does follow that. So we can still
talk about it and have it all ready for the full board meeting in June. And
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. The next meeting is May 26th, and then full board is in June is on the 8th. So yeah, that would be the last opportunity before the summer.
Okay, and as was indicated in the minutes, there's still some question about timing of whether the various city agencies are going to be able to do the regulations, given that the city council's zoning text apparently is in dispute legally. So it's less time constrained, so to speak. And I think maybe the best way to go is I'll re-edit with track changes. Next committee meeting, we can absolutely take a vote on it and then send it to the full board meeting for the June full board.
That makes a lot of sense to me, at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works for me too. And a reminder, we do meet throughout the summer technically, but I'm gonna speak with Kyle and discuss that more, because it's summer and it's challenging to get a quorum during the summer. So I'll have an update at our next meeting on what we plan to do there. Thank you, Anton. So I'm hearing we're going to table this to next month and then finally hope to have a conclusion after everyone's really diligent hard work. So thank you again. And the timing works out well, I'd say. So I think I lost the script again, sorry. Next up is my report, yes, which is brief, you know, just actually continuing from what I was just saying. There is a chance, and again, I haven't spoken to Kyle yet, but I think that the state's open meetings law is set to expire pretty soon. And if we did meet in the summer, there's kind of a risk that it might have to be in person, but I've, as much as I love to see you all in person, I think that I'll probably advocate to, if we need to meet during the summer, to definitely keep it on Zoom, and then we can see what the fall brings. But I just wanted to kind of report that that feels the most comfortable to me, at least, and I hope folks are in agreement. And I do look forward to seeing you all in person together sometime soon, but I think we can save that for a few more months at least. Just the next thing that I wanted to say is that next month, for our last month, I might have mentioned this to you all previously, but I had been trying to get someone from the New York Nail Salon Workers Association to join us. It's, you know, there are nail salons everywhere, and I'm not sure if folks have read the New York Times piece that came out probably like 5 years ago or so now, but just speaking about the conditions that nail salon workers face. There is a group, an organized group of nail salon workers that have some like representation in this bigger coalition, and I invited them to join us next month, so we can look forward to that. I'll have Alexandra send around that article from the Times, which is really illuminating, and they are advocating for a bill in the Senate to kind of just promote nail salon workers' rights and better conditions. So I can send a little background about that before they join us, but I'm looking forward to having them there. Other than that, I think this, my report is concluded. I don't know if anyone has any old or new business that they want to bring up, but that's next before we conclude. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Anton. We do not need a second here. So if there's no objections, we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, and thank
Thank
you,
you.
Anton, for your
Thank you.
work on this.
Joy.
Yes, thank you.
Good
Talk to
meeting,
you
thank
soon.
you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very much.
everyone.
Bye-bye.